Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is on Palmer.
Welcome in on Palmer, coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Thursday. Hope your Thursday's off to a good start. Warm week here in Baton Rouge. Gonna get some rain here, I believe, over the weekend, but I'm good with warm weather. I promise you that. I don't complain in July and August when it's 100. I will complain in January and February when it's 30. I'll do just fine with 75 and 80 today. Hope your week's going well. We're getting close to the weekend. We're with you for the next 2 hours. Going to get you caught up on some SEC baseball over the last couple of nights. Sharif Ishak, usually with us on Tuesdays, had his Mardi Gras coverage, had a press conference he had to be at yesterday. So we bump him back to Thursday to talk some Saints as well as some Pelicans. In hour number 2, pumped up to get some SEC basketball from last night. And, of course, Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. He will be in Oxford and Starkville this coming weekend, so we'll talk with Joe in his normal weekly spot about what he saw from the SEC over the weekend and then what he's expecting this weekend from the Southeastern Conference. But we will start with a basketball win. Hey, I was excited last night. I did not go. Got home. Wife made it pretty clear that she was tired from hanging out with the little man all day. I thought I can handle dinner and bath time today. We'll take a rain check on basketball and we'll watch it on TV. But I did enjoy the fact that they won the game. 84-77 was the final. Tigers over Vanderbilt. And so I think what's important, at least for me, in talking about this game today, it's not about program building. It's not about any future implications for Saturday or the next 2 weeks or the Matt McMahon era. It's not about a trend that has changed, that's moving in the right direction, riding the ship, whatever cliche you want to. It's not about any of that. This is about 20, 25 guys, people, the players, the coaches, the strength staff, the GAs, the director of player personnel. It's about that tight-knit group of people for the first time in 56 days, feeling good about a win. They have not won since December the 28th. 56 days of getting up and going to work out and running sprints and going to study hall and getting on the plane to go sleep in the hotel to play another game and then fly back, all the while going to class. None of that's positive when things have gone the way they have gone for 6 weeks for this team. Good on them. I hope they felt great about what they did last night. If you were listening to Charlie's show just an hour ago, you heard him kind of give all the things we were looking for in year one of the Matt McMahon era. And all of what he said was true. I listened to every word of it. I'm not focusing on that stuff today. Today was about those guys winning a game. And I think we can let it slide as a fan base. Okay, they're not going to go to the tournament. They're not going to go to the NIT. They haven't won a game in 7 weeks. I'm watching baseball. I'm playing golf. I'm going fishing. I don't care about that. I'm not even watching. We can do that. We can tune out. This is their life. And I'm not trying to boil all of them down to just basketball, but it's the vast majority of their existence from November through March. That's a rough existence when you cannot get a win on the board. So I'm so excited for them last night to have gotten that done. Now, we'll talk about it. The bad news for LSU is that to win a game, basically, you need KJ Williams and Adam Miller to be great. Options 2, 3, 4, 5, not necessarily going to get it done. We've seen games this year where Derek Fountain went for 25 plus. We saw Cam Hayes on Saturday have a really nice scoring game. But for LSU to win, Williams and Miller probably are going to have to carry the majority of the load. The good news, they did. KJ Williams in this season of loss after loss after loss, has really been good. He really has been an excellent player. Last night, he was a star. He went 13 of 25 from the floor. He made 5 of his 10 threes. He had 10 rebounds, only turned the ball over one time, and it was obvious they were really trying to get him the ball, so he only had one turnover. That's huge. He hit a huge three with 6 minutes and 48 seconds to go to stretch the lead to 10 in the second half, and hit basically the backbreaker, as was said on the telecast, with 56 seconds to go to put LSU from up 4 to up 7. He was playing hard. He was emotional. He was playing great. He was sensational. And he's been really good all year. But he put the team on his back last night and gave you a career performance for a guy who's played in a lot of college basketball games. He played 36 minutes, gave you 35 points. Just brilliant from start to finish. And you knew that was in there. And I thought Adam Miller was awesome. The stats aren't eye-popping, but I thought he changed the way he played a little bit last night, and it looked really good. He only took 4 threes last night. We've seen plenty of times where he's put up 12, 13 threes and made 2 or 3 of them. He only took 4 threes. And from 2-point range, he wasn't great statistically from 2. He was 3 of 6. Now, one of them was that awesome left-handed finish over Robbins, who's been blocking everything in sight. And Miller gets to his left hand, gets to the block, and puts it up off the glass. But he's just 3 of 6 from 2-point range. Not eye-popping. But he got to the line. He shot 10 free throws, and he made 9 of them. He played downhill last night. He really hasn't done much of that all year. I looked at the statistics in the middle of December, in the middle of January, and kind of looked at where things were, and all he was doing was just shooting a bunch of threes, which if you're knocking down 42% of them, fire away. But Miller wasn't, and it's not as if he can't put the ball on the floor. I just didn't think he did enough of it throughout the course of this year. Last night, he did. He didn't settle for every jump shot that was available. He took it to the basket and made some shots around the rim and certainly cashed in from the free throw. And when the dust had settled, he had scored 18 points in his 33 minutes. He grabbed 5 rebounds, dished 3 assists out, and I thought was excellent. So the 2 guys that LSU has really needed to be its offensive catalysts were that last night. And then as a whole, you look at the rest of the role players. And I thought, nice job. Tyrell Ward, he shot the ball 3 times. He made all 3. He had a fast break layup, and he had a couple threes. He was 2 of 2 from the three-point. That was all he shot. 18 minutes, he took 3 shots. Nice job. He didn't turn the ball over either. Trey Hannibal did not take a shot. Got to the free throw line a little bit. Grabbed 5 rebounds. And when he was out there on the floor, even though he didn't take a shot, his plus-minus was very good. Plus 15. Best on the team. Look at what you got from Sean Phillips. He didn't take a shot either. Only played 10 minutes, but he grabbed a couple of rebounds. He had an assist, which was a nice little pass around the block. And he and Jalen Reed, I'm not suggesting this is a great thing, but here's the deal. They had 9 fouls between the 2 of them. KJ Williams didn't have a foul. Those guys have got to be down there contesting shots, banging bodies. Robbins is a big guy. Vanderbilt's got some guys that want to get to the rim. I'm not trying to totally blow smoke and tell you that those 2 guys having 9 fouls in 25 minutes is some sort of huge contribution to the team, but I'm suggesting to you those guys had a role. You need to be physical around the rim against a team with a lot of older players who are physical, and we can't have KJ Williams taking all the contact. Roles. You don't have a bunch of stars. You got to play some roles, and they did. And then one thing that happened last night that I've just kind of been hoping for each and every time that LSU takes the floor, maybe some shots don't go in for the other team. Maybe it's not like what what South Carolina did to LSU in the first half on Saturday. Maybe it's not like Missouri did to LSU in the first half in Columbia. Maybe it's not like Alabama did in the first half against LSU in Tuscaloosa. where they just made everything in sight and the lead got to a point you couldn't shrink it. Vandy, of course, as is tradition, jumped out to an immediate 7-point lead on LSU, just like most people have. Seems like LSU can't get to the first media timeout without being down 10. They were down 7 quick, but then Vandy hit a drought, and they missed 10 straight shots over 10 minutes. That's the kind of thing LSU needs every once in a while. Some of it was good LSU defense. Some of it was just missing some shots. And it's a shot-making sport, as I've said a lot of times. And Vandy had a stretch there where LSU could build a lead, and they did when they missed 10 in a row. We'll take it gladly. Thank you. Just good for the Tigers last night to feel that feeling. And again, it doesn't suggest that Matt McMahon's finally gotten through to the team. It doesn't suggest they've turned a corner. It doesn't suggest they're going to play awesome on Saturday. It doesn't suggest this year's been a success or it's moving in the right direction. All it means is for 2 hours, those guys went out there, played really hard, put 84 points on the board, and won a basketball game. And that's the most important thing from yesterday. Because we as fans can't really put ourselves in the shoes of some of these players when you realize how bad things have gone for 7 weeks. It was powerful to me on this show on Tuesday, talking to Matthew Bruni and Glenn West, and them saying that Cam Hayes teared up in the post-game press conference on Saturday. You can say anything you want about the way this season has gone. You can't change my mind on hearing something like that. This matters to these guys. And when this dust settles on this season, they won't have won any championships. They won't have contended for any championships. But for 2 hours last night and whatever time they enjoyed after the game was over, hell yeah, man. Good for y'all. I was so hoping they would not go the rest of the schedule without winning a game. It's just one of those deals where, again, you can tell me that doesn't matter to you as a fan or whatever, but you won't convince me that it's not important to those guys. And that to me, was the biggest takeaway from yesterday. 84-77 the final. Tigers beat Vanderbilt. Sharif Ishak's going to be with us in about 15 minutes. Will Lutz took a pay cut today. Alvin Kamara, there's now been new video released since we got off the air yesterday of some interviews that Alvin Kamara did, or some video from the car he was in after the fight had happened. So we'll get Sharif's thoughts on some of that, as well as the Pelicans. Excited to talk to Joe Healy in an hour about some SEC baseball. So plenty to get to here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on select new 2022 Ford F-150 trucks. $10,000 off plus 0% financing. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana Lawyer. Always.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting. With a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
Me, Jimmy Odd and Charles Henniger for the Thursday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're downtown at Jolly Pearl Oyster Bar on north facing Town Square. Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Get you some headlines here, some talking points from SEC baseball and midweek action this week. Some pretty interesting stuff going down. Some of the upsets we saw on Tuesday night, there were a few. Louisiana Monroe jumped all over Mississippi State, beat them 11-5. It was 10-0 at one point. Central Arkansas beat Vanderbilt up in Nashville. Will Davis's squad, the Lamar Cardinals, took out Texas A&M on Tuesday by the final score of 7-4. So those were kind of the upsets. Grambling was really giving Arkansas all they wanted in Fayetteville, but Arkansas won that game 9-7. Then we go to yesterday's action, and it was fairly jaw-dropping from a scoreboard perspective. Outside of South Florida scoring 7 runs in the ninth to beat Florida. You heard that right. 7 runs in the ninth inning to beat Florida. The score was 8-3. 8-3. And South Florida scored 7 runs to make it 10-8. Florida would add a run in the ninth, but South Florida did beat the Gators 10-9. Outside of that game, South Florida and Florida, the rest of the SEC games, if tallied up, were SEC 72, others 5. It was a bloodbath elsewhere. Mississippi State crushed UL Monroe 14-3. South Carolina beat some school called Queens, which I think is North Carolina, 12-0. Alabama beat Tennessee Martin 10-0. Tennessee beat Alabama A&M 23-1, and Vanderbilt beat UAB 13-1. The one thing that I want to mention about the Mississippi State UL Monroe game yesterday, when I finished with my show, I went back to my desk and fired up Watch ESPN to watch a little bit of Mississippi State, understanding that ULM had beaten them the night before. And Mississippi State started a pitcher by the name of Gerangelo Sainja. You may have heard his name. If you were listening to T-Bob this morning, you would have heard his name. I was familiar with the name, had not seen him pitch yet. Gerangelo Sainja pitches with both arms. He wears a glove on the mound that he can switch from his left hand to his right hand, and he pitches to each batter depending on which hand they hit with. Now, I know the rule, if there's a switch hitter and a switch pitcher, you have to establish at the beginning of the at-bat where you're going to pitch from and what side you're going to hit from. I don't know who gets precedent there, but for all the guys that just hit from one side of the plate, Senja gets to change hands at-bat to at-bat. Now, he can't throw one pitch to you right-handed and one pitch to you left-handed. He has to establish, okay, you're hitting right-handed, I'm throwing right-handed, here we go. And let me tell you this, in watching him yesterday, this is not a gimmick whatsoever. Jurrangelo St. was up to 96 miles an hour right-handed, and it looks smooth, and it is running, and he can throw a breaking ball, and it is good stuff. And from the left side, he was up to 92, and he can spin a breaking ball that way too. He's a legitimate SEC pitcher from both arm slots. And yesterday against ULM, he threw 4 innings, gave up 1 hit and no runs, struck out 7. And I was impressed. I was as impressed with the stuff as I was that he could throw from both hands. So it's not like, oh man, he's this two-handed pitcher. Man, he can throw 85 miles an hour with both hands. Wow. No. He would be every bit as effective a pitcher if he only could pitch with one arm. He is that good. So for those that are interested in some SEC baseball, Jurrangelo St. is a guy that I would give a strong look to. Now, however, State may have a little bit of an issue pitching and playing defense, because if you'll remember over the weekend, they had a game get away from them, and they've given up now double-digit runs in 2 of their 5 games. So right now, it's way too early to draw sweeping judgments. But just looking at the roster that Mississippi State has, the proven commodities that they have, what they were last year, and what I feel about them right now, I just don't think it's a great baseball team. I think they could be good. But do I think they're worse than A&M? I do. Do I think they're worse than Arkansas? I do. Do I think they're worse than LSU? I do. And you start to go to the others. Do I think they're worse than Ole Miss? We'll see what happens with Hunter Elliott, but I do. Do I think they're worse than Alabama? I do. And I think they're right there with Auburn, who I don't know is going to be great this year. Now, it's, again, way too early. At this point last year, I would have told you that Auburn and Texas A&M weren't very good, and that Mississippi State was probably going to be good. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they had just won a national championship, but that would have been wrong on all 3 accounts, because Auburn and A&M were good, and Mississippi State was not. So I don't have a ton of conviction with this. It's just the way I feel very, very early, having watched a little bit of this. And for Mississippi State to not, to me, have one of their top-level aces that they've had in the past, and then to have struggled the way they did in 2 of the 5 games to get lower-level teams out, I think it's trouble. But I think Senja is going to have something to say about this. If you were looking for Jurrangelo St. videos on the internet and you're like, well, how do you spell Senja? Well, it's not the way you think you would spell it. Senja is spelledCijntje.Cijntje, Senja. But he's no joke on the mound. That's a tough name to pronounce, but he can really, really go on the mound. Excited to get Joe Healy's thoughts coming up from D1 Baseball. We'll chat with him at 2:15 every Thursday about the state of the league, and I want his thoughts on Tennessee's perceived struggles out there in the West. I want his thoughts on Jurrangelo St. I want his thoughts on what we're going to see this coming weekend as LSU heads out to Round Rock to play Kansas State, Iowa, and Sam Houston. And lastly, I'm excited to hear what his anticipation level is. He is a D1 baseball guy. He's a college baseball guy. He's a great content, does an awesome job following the conference. He's never been to Starkville or Oxford, and he's going to make both of those stops this weekend, as beat writers or national writers are prone to do this time of year, to kind of jump to a couple of games over the weekend. And so I can't say enough positive stuff about Starkville and Oxford for baseball weekends. For a football weekend, Starkville doesn't work for me. It's too small. It's too hard to park. I don't love the stadium. It's just a cluster for football weekends. You're trying to pack 100,000 people onto campus. It doesn't work. For baseball, when you're trying to pack 25,000 in, maybe a little bit less than that, it works great. And I've had a great time covering baseball series up in Starkville. Same thing for Oxford. I think their environment's fantastic. I love the square, the restaurants and the bars. So curious to get Joe's thoughts on that entire scene. But wanted to briefly touch on a few SEC baseball talking points here as we move forward on a Thursday. SEC basketball update coming up at 2 o'clock. Joe Healy again at 2:15. On 3 has ranked the SEC quarterbacks entering next season. I'll give you my thoughts on their ranking coming up at 2:30. When we come back, it'll be old Sharif Ishak from WDSU. He's been a busy guy over the last couple of days, but he's gonna have a chat with us here coming up. I want to remind you this February, 104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust are here to offer you a holiday rebate to the tune of $2,000 in cash. We'll also be selecting a local prize winner to receive $1,000 in cash. You can sign up now at 1045ESPN.com. Back with Sharif Ishak on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. Spring cleaning, that's the cliche, right? Got to get your house in order in the spring. Well, why don't you let David Duvall and his team help you with your closet? You've got winter coats everywhere that you're about to put up, but you don't have any room for them. You got shoes all over the place. You don't have quite enough room for all the things that you need day to day. Let David Duvall and his team come in, give you a free consultation on what goes into the closet designing process. They'll tell you, okay, here's what we can do based on your needs, and they'll customize a solution for you. And the best part, tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you from 104.5 ESPN. They're not going to charge you to rip out your current closet or the install of the new unit. They're just going to charge you for the price of that new unit. And if you could use a new, more functional, more beautiful, aesthetically pleasing bathroom, David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets can help you. Maybe it's a full-scale remodel. Maybe it's just a tub-to-shower conversion. Go over to the website. Check out the testimonials. Check out the pictures of before and after. Check out what they can do for you at One Bath and Closets. I promise you this, they're not going to come back 3-6 weeks later because something's gone wrong and they've got to fix it. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. Again, it's OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting with a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman.
Rock in a hard place,
with Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained.
Saturday at 1 p.m. as the Baylor Bears host the Texas Longhorns. Then Saturday night, the Philadelphia 76ers host the Boston Celtics at 7:30. And Sunday, the Milwaukee Bucks host the Phoenix Suns at noon. Right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Let's venture on out to the gym's firearms hotline. That's where we can find Sharif Ishak, generally heard on Tuesdays, but Sharif was busy wearing shoulder pads and a helmet maybe on Tuesday, and then had a press conference yesterday. What was going on Tuesday, Sharif?
Well, we get thrown into the Mardi Gras coverage for like 10 hours. I probably could have called you while I was dressed up, but I had no cell service. I didn't want to drop in and out on you. You know, I hate doing that to you. But yeah, we were dressed up as Tulane Green Wave. Every year we do like a sports team coming off a big season. You know, last year we did Jose Alvarado and Herb Jones, and 2 years before that we did Drew Brees and Joe Burrow. So we went Tulane this year to celebrate their good season.
It looked good. When was the last time you had shoulder pads on?
Probably 2020 Mardi Gras, and I did Joe Burrow. Yeah, that's the last time I did it.
You know, might not be a bad idea to have shoulder pads and helmets out there. There's beads flying around. There's footballs all over the place. Did you embrace any contact while all dressed up?
The most contact I got was from Kendall Duncan, who was slapping on my pads the entire day and pushing me around. She wanted to make sure I stayed up because I had not gone to sleep the day before just so I could not miss the day. So that's the most contact I got. No helmets, though. I mean, it was 82 degrees outside. I wasn't putting the helmets on. It was too warm for that.
Good Mardi Gras? You have fun?
Yeah, you know, this was the first year I was off Saturday and Sunday in the 10 years I've been here. It was fun. You know, the weather was great. I didn't get my face cut open like I did in previous years by beads. So I had a good time, man. Had a good time. Saw a lot of people I haven't seen in years.
Wonderful to hear. I don't know that Alvin Kamara is having a great time these days. Some videos now surfacing of the incident, of a ride that he took after the incident, and there's security footage in there. Has your opinion on the matter changed over the last 48 hours?
Well, the video isn't really new. It's the same video. It's just you can see a little clearer. It's a little more color to the video.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still trying to find. There's some other video or some tweet that somebody mentioned to me yesterday where he admits that he did punch the guy. And said he punched him really hard and used some other language I can't use in your radio show.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, it's still the same. I still think it's the same. I want to see if he really stomped on the dude, because that's the thing that, you know, I'm sure the NFL is going to be looking at, and whoever's looking over this case is going to be looking at. Looks like he did take a big swing at the guy. So nothing has changed. I still think he's going to get the 6 games. And that's what I thought before, and I still think he's going to get 6 games. Now, what he's trying to avoid. And you don't want this to go to court, man. You don't want this thing to actually play out in court. That's one thing I'm sure you want to try avoiding. I know the guy wants to get paid, but you don't want this to go to court with video and all that evidence out there.
What do you think Alvin Kamara's future with the Saints is? Just 6 games? See you in the middle of October?
No. When does it happen? The suspension probably happens right in the beginning of the season. I mean, we got a court date coming up March 2nd, so we're going to start seeing something and hearing something about this case, and it's going to get solved pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm curious as to, It's just so out of the Saints' character to go into any sort of a restart, rebuild, whatever buzzword you want to use. And he's one of the assets that you thought you might be able to maybe get something for, like the Panthers did with Christian McCaffrey. But now you've got the suspension looming. Obviously, that hurts his value.
Right. If he had no suspension, I think the Saints would be in a great spot right now, in terms of like their offense. But now, no quarterback, Alvin Kamara, suspension looming. I mean, it's just like so much up in the air. You can't really get much for him. And considering that, he's got a big cap hit and salary. I mean, it's just, are you going to get off that asset? I mean, if you weren't being suspended, yeah, maybe you think about it if you want to somewhat, try to get some more trade assets for your team and maybe draft somebody in the upcoming draft. But this franchise hunt is never going to hit a hard reset.
Yeah.
It's hard, like Mickey Loomis said, it's hard to come back from a hard reset. You never know what could happen. If you think you're trying to tank for players and it doesn't turn out the player's good, look at the Jets, Zach Wilson. So, I just don't see the franchise ever doing that again.
Well, it's in restructure season, Kai Harley season, if you will. Will Lutz took a little bit of a pay cut today. It kind of feels like they might have said, hey, man, not a great year last year. We're going to need you to take a little less money, or we're going to have to try something different.
Right. I mean, 74%, that's the lowest he's ever had. And it was near the bottom in the NFL. It was close to being the worst in the NFL last season. And he really struggled, especially from 40 to 49 yards. That's just not typical of him. And I know he was coming off a very, serious injury, and maybe he wasn't just right yet. But, I think he's going to get pushed this camp. He is really going to get pushed by somebody this camp. He can't get it right. They're just going to move on and go with someone else. They lowered it so much that it wouldn't be that big of a hit on them if they moved on from him.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU, is our guest here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. I got deked out yesterday. I'm just an idiot, and I just clicked on the NBA tab on the ESPN in the morning and clicked scores, and usually that'll bring me up the schedule for the night. So I looked at it and saw the Pelicans. All right, well, they're in Toronto. All right, well, let's talk about that. And then all of a sudden realized, oh, wait, the game's not until Thursday night. So they will actually start tonight out of the All-Star break. Who do you think on this team benefits the most from a few days off of the All-Star break?
I would say Brandon Ingram is definitely C.J. McCollum. He was dealing with the thumb injury, the ankle injury, and, he's playing through it. I think he needed the rest more than anybody. And I think it's going to help him tremendously. It'd be great if they had Zion back, but, I'm still thinking we're 4 or 5 weeks away from even hearing about that. So, to me, C.J. McCollum, I wish that, for one reason, I wish it wasn't the All-Star break for Brandon Ingram. It seems like he was starting to catch, fire. He was starting to get into rhythm. He looked like the old B.I., but I expect him to look even better than the old B.I. as we come out of the All-Star. They're going to need those two guys to be even better without Zion on the court with 23 games left. I think they would need to go 14-9 to avoid a play-in. That's just what I think. They need to get to 43 or 44 wins.
Does last year's run, post-trade deadline, post-CJ trade, give the team a little juice saying, hey, we just did this 11 months ago?
Right, yes, for sure. And on top of that, they have the easy schedule coming out of the All-Star break, so they certainly need to take advantage of that. But having been through it last year with pretty much the same exact team should certainly give them a lot of confidence. And I think they'll feed off of it. Now, in Toronto tonight, it's a tough place to play. Traditionally, it's been a tough spot for them to go and win. I mean, it's tough to win there. They absolutely crushed them earlier this year in the Smoothie King Center, beat them by 18. That was without CJ and Brandon Ingram on the court. Now, this time around, they have both of those guys, but no Zion. So they're certainly going to need, another body to step up. Trey Murphy, one of his better games this year was against the Raptors. He had 26, I think, in that game. So you got to get him going. I think they're 8-1 when he scores 20 or more points in this season. So they need him to really get going. Can't be 0 for 6 like it was against the Lakers.
I think it's safe to say that the push of this team is going to come with Zion off the floor and then B.I. and C.J. on it. We understand what the role of those two guys is. Who's got to be number 3, or is it going to be a rotating deal every night?
So we'll go without Zion. Without Zion, I think
that's the point.
You got to get JV. Yeah, you got to get JV a little bit more involved. And there's some teams where he needs to bang against guys like Anthony Davis. They should have been using him more against him. Anthony hates contact. They should have been going right at Anthony Davis a lot more. Tonight, I know they have Jakob Poeltl now on their team, but still go at him. Get JV more involved. He's a banger. He's a guy who can get you buckets at the rim, or at least draw fouls. I mean, I don't understand why they aren't using him in that area in certain spots of the game. I understand there's some athletic bigs he can't go against, and that's why I kept saying you need to find They didn't get it. So I would keep that. He's the guy that I think they need to use a little bit more in situations. And let me tell you something, Hunt. This half-court offense got to figure it out. Without Zion, they're 26 in the NBA in the half-court offense. It's not pretty, man. They have got to facilitate that ball a little bit better without him on the court.
I think Ingram will help in that, just being on the floor and being himself. Not looking for details here, just like big picture. We know what Tulane baseball meant to that town at the beginning of this century, and we know that after Katrina, it kind of fell off a cliff. Is there any buzz there this time of year, or do they really need to get off to a hot start for anybody to care?
Man, look, you got to be good.
Yeah.
Football team, and all those bad seasons, and then eventually they flipped the switch this year, and it was like everyone was invested. You started to see the sellouts, and hey, you're seeing it with the basketball team, even though they got clouded by 30 by the number one team last night. But at least you're sellouts with the basketball team. Like any sport, Hunt, Tulane baseball needs to start winning, and you got to start winning. I mean, you can't cut off the slow starts and then try to dig yourself out of a hole, and that's the issue with this team. They're going to be digging themselves out this season, and they haven't won a game yet. So, yeah, they need to find a way to, create a buzz around here and start winning.
It's Pell City at this very moment. We'll see what happens with the Saints in free agency. Sharif, appreciate you being flexible with time this week. We'll talk to you next week.
Anytime, man.
Sharif Ishak, WDSU. You missed the pictures. Go to Sharif's Twitter. Got him all suited up in the Tulane gear over there during Mardi Gras, doing Mardi Gras coverage. So appreciate him for making some time for us today. When we come back to close out hour number 1, it appears, based on some reports, we'll play the sound, that one NFC South team has decided the direction they're headed at quarterback. I'll tell you who that is next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on select new 2022 Ford F-150 trucks. $10,000 off plus 0% financing. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting. With a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience.
Coming up on Friday's OTB, how did the Pelicans fare in their first game back outside of the All-Star break? Another glorious weekend of LSU baseballs on the docket. And Rivs Huey stops by for some champagne shenanigans. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Working towards the weekend here on a Thursday. Hopefully it's been a short week for you. Maybe had a couple days off on the front end, or at least one day off on Tuesday. Just inching towards that weekend. Tiger baseball squad tomorrow will play at 2 o'clock against Kansas State. And they're going to play at noon on Saturday against Iowa, which is going to be really interesting to watch with the guy throwing 100. And then they will play on Sunday to wrap things up against Sam Houston over in the Round Rock Classic. Going to try to grab Doug Thompson tomorrow from the press box at Round Rock before, because obviously LSU will go first pitch at 2 o'clock right in the middle of our show tomorrow. But we'll get you ready for it tomorrow in the first hour. In the second hour, we'll certainly preview LSU and Ole Miss. The Tigers maybe try to win a second basketball game in a row. That would be a hell of a thing. We could do that. So looking forward to a Friday show. But still some work to do here on this Thursday. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball with us in the second hour. A tease at the end of last segment coming into this one that a team in the NFC South may have settled on a quarterback. And that's not finalized. But if you listen to Jeff Darlington of ESPN, he thinks that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are certainly leaning that way.
The Bucs, from my conversations with the organization, they do feel like at least Kyle Trask is likely to be the guy under center. I feel pretty confident that they're going that direction, whether that's due to some salary cap concerns, because they did go all in on Tom Brady the past couple years to try to build around him, and now they do have to pay a little bit of that price. I still think that Jason Light, the general manager, is never just he's just not going to lay down by any means, but I think he also believes Kyle Trask has what it takes to be a winner in this league. And he looks around the division and he says, well, we got the best quarterback in the division at the very least. Ooh. So, I'm not saying that means much, but I think that he at least thinks they can be competitive with Kyle Trask.
Yeah, what we just saw there.
Wait a second. The best quarterback in the division? Based on what? He's made 9 career attempts. He's completed 3 of them. He's got 3 more completions than my cat. He's the best quarterback in the division? Huh? I mean, it's great if you want to think that. I could make probably a far more compelling argument. He's the worst quarterback in the division, and one of the teams doesn't even have one. If that's what you want to push out there to the media, that's all well and good, but I don't think so. If you feel terrible about where the Saints are from a salary cap perspective and from a quarterback perspective, the Bucs might be worse. They're in a worse cap spot. Now, I could suggest that having a young early draft pick on the cheap who has never made any poor plays on the field is better than having two aging guys who have kind of proven they're not the deal. But I could also say, hey, you might be married to a guy who's not very good. And the Saints are still perusing and pursuing their next quarterback in the coming years. But the NFC South is a punchline at this point. And I fully respect where all these franchises are and the way that they got there. Tampa got there because they dumped everything they had into winning with Tom Brady, and it worked. And the Saints are where they are because they dumped everything into surrounding Drew Brees with as much as they could, and it was successful. He didn't climb all the way to the top of the mountain, but they were very, very good for a long time. And the Panthers and Falcons said, all right, we're going to reset this whole thing. Now, none of them are in a very desirable spot. There's not one team in the NFC South that you would point to and go, this looks pretty good. This is really something to work with. None of the quarterbacks have proven they can be anything more than below average. Two of the teams are in salary cap hell. The quarterback position is totally up in the air in all four spots. And I guess the best thing you can say about any of their situations is, yeah, but look at the other three guys. They're awful too. It's all relative. But it surprises me a little bit to hear that Tampa is going to put its eggs in the Kyle Trask basket. Now, that's not final. They could go find Aaron Rodgers. They could try to rope in Derek Carr. We think there's a pretty reasonable reality that he ends up in the NFC South in one way or another. But, there is a part of me that is, as much as I've poked fun at this, because it deserves to be poked fun at when you tell me you have the best quarterback in the division and he's a career 3 out of 9. There's a part of me that's a little bit jealous because you've got the hope that it's there. The worst part about the Saints is you don't even have the hope that it's there. They quit on Jameis Winston, and Andy Dalton doesn't have anything left in the tank from an elite level. He can go out there and give you 19 for 32 with a touchdown and a pick and 242 yards. Sure. But he can't get you over the hump. At least Tampa might have it. I think it just stands to reason that you could doubt that pretty significantly. And I think I play the clip for two reasons. One, to let you know, as likely a Saints fan, that this is what Tampa's thinking about doing. And two, because of the lunacy of him saying they got the best quarterback in the division. At least Desmond Ridder played a little bit this year. Trask just sat there. But it's gotta be the most, what's the word? It's the most open-ended offseason that this division may have ever had. For so long, you had Newton and Ryan and Breeze and really Winston for a long time. But Breeze and Ryan for so long. And Newton for a good period of time. And you kind of knew where everybody was. This team signed that guy. Here's a first-round draft pick. And this guy got away in free agency. Here's what they're going to try. But it kind of felt like you had a reasonable expectation of what those teams were going to be. I can't tell you anything about what these teams are going to be next year other than to say that I don't think they're going to be very good. And to bring it all the way around full circle, well, as I've said over the last two shows and really over the last 3 or 4 weeks, that I just don't like the Saints situation from any angle. The only one that I can try to shine and polish a little bit to put a silver lining on it is the fact that the other teams in the division are this way. And it just crystallizes a little bit when you hear Jeff Darlington say he talked to a representative with the Bucs and they're really comfortable going forward with the Kyle Trask era. Quite frankly, if I'm a Saints fan and I hear that, I'm not exactly shaking in my black and gold boots. I'm probably laughing. Unless I might be shaking from laughing. But that's all the shaking I'm doing. Kyle Trask. I don't think it's going to work out so well. We'll see. Whole NFC South is not great, Bob, to use the old GIF. That's it for hour number one here on a Thursday. Lots to get to if you missed it. On demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. All the shows are listed there. You can click it. The audio is going to be uploaded. Maybe you're a Spotify, an Apple Podcast, Google Podcast listener. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us. And, of course, you can always find us on YouTube. Those of you in the Bayou Ford chat, I see you. Throw us a like if you would. We open things talking about a win. LSU basketball got a victory over Vanderbilt last night. That was the open to the show. Some SEC baseball highlights from the midweek that was, including Jerangelo Sanger throwing with both arms for Mississippi State and really impressing me. Sharif Ishak from WDSU was with us at 1:30 talking all things New Orleans. So catch all that on demand. Big second hour coming at you. We're going to have on threes rankings of the SEC quarterbacks in hour number two. We're going to have Joe Healy from D1 Baseball talking SEC baseball in hour number two. And after SportsCenter, we'll come back, get you caught up on my gambling picks from SEC basketball last night and what we saw on the hardwood. Come back again after SportsCenter on Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off new 2022 Ram 1500s. 2022 Ram 1500 trucks on our lot now with $10,000 off MSRP. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting. With a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Aaron Rodgers is out of the dark. The 39-year-old Packers quarterback left a darkness retreat in Oregon after staying there for several days. Rodgers is under contract for almost $60 million in 2023, but hasn't decided if he'll play or retire. ESPN's Harry Douglas.
The biggest fear of NFL owners right now is this league becoming what the NBA is. And players having those guaranteed contracts, and then you have the biggest stars basically running the league. That's their biggest fear. They don't want that. They want full control.
If Rodgers plays with the Packers this year, he'll get almost $60 million guaranteed. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports new Broncos head coach Sean Payton is hiring former Broncos head coach Vance Joseph as the team's new defensive coordinator. For the last 4 years, Joseph was the D coordinator for the Cardinals. He coached the Broncos in 2017 and 2018. Payton will also hire former Chargers offensive coordinator for a still unspecified role on the staff.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. Fortunately, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. It's a good thing, too, because having a home is hard work. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. Geico.com. Easy.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
All right, I've made an audible here at the top of hour number 2. I was going to do SEC basketball, but instead we're going to just have some fun and play this game because I have the link to On 3 ranking the quarterbacks 1 through 14 in the Southeastern Conference for next season. However, I never opened the link. I'm just going to go through it and kind of give my talking points. Instead, I'm going to let Taylor Sharp open the link, and then I'm just going to run through. And I will tell you, and I did this during the time out there, I don't know who Bama's quarterback's going to be. I'm going to play it if it's Jalen Milroe. I don't know who Kentucky's quarterback's supposed to be. Did they get a transfer from somewhere?
Yeah, I don't remember where, though.
Trying to think. I can't think of it. Vanderbilt, I have no idea. Probably going to put him last anyway. And I don't know who Georgia's quarterback's going to be. But I think I've got all of them except that. So that leaves me with 11 that I can rank pretty comfortably. Now, I know because of the headline that I clicked on that Jaden Daniels is first. So they're giving Jaden Daniels the nod as the number 1 quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. Now, Taylor, do you have the list handy at the moment?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Because I've got it how I would rank it. I've got, I know that Jaden Daniels is number 1, so I've got him at 1. I would put KJ Jefferson second. Did they do that?
Let's see what they did. They have... Yes, KJ Jefferson.
KJ Jefferson is second. Okay. Now, I guess they ranked that's the top 10 quarterbacks in college football for the season. Where's that list? Did you find it?
I have the link you posted, which is in college football, but I'm assuming Jefferson's second because they have him top 10 in the country.
Okay, well, I guess I may have... Interesting. So they've got him the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. Okay, well, let's see. Because On 3, I got this from their forum that Shea had that said they had him... Oh, I guess they had him as the top quarterback in the conference because he's the top one in the SEC. That's the way this thing shook out. That's why I guess you should, look at the link before you pull it up. Well, then I'll just do mine. Because I went through and I ranked 11 of them. And Jaden Daniels I have at number 1 because I thought they had. I have KJ Jefferson at number 2. Number 3, I put Will Rogers. That's a lot of yards he's thrown for over the years, and he's coming back. He's going to smash some college football records.
You have him behind Daniels and Jefferson?
I do.
So they have Devin Leary third.
Okay.
At Kentucky.
Right. He's at Kentucky, transferred from NC State, and that's when we didn't know. I cannot I'll be very frank with you. I won't even bat an eye at the fact that I didn't know Kentucky's quarterback, because until July, when I can figure out who all transferred where and can get them all down on some paper, it's not in my brain. But Devin Leary, okay, I don't hate that, but I've got Rodgers at third. This is going to be really one that everyone rolls their eyes at and thinks I'm an idiot. I watched this stuff a little bit more closely than I should, and I was pretty damn impressed at 2 of the games he played last year, even though he didn't play a ton, especially with a bad offensive line and hurt weapons all over the place. I've got Connor Wigman at number 4. He was a big-time recruit, and I thought the game he played against LSU was really good. LSU put heat on him. I know they ran for 250-something yards, and A-Chain was all over the place, and that makes things easier on a quarterback, but I've got Wigman at number 4. I liked Brady Cook at the end of last year at Missouri. I've got him at number 5 here. I think that team is not very good, but his dual threat ability and kind of the plays he made late, I liked what he did. You mentioned, keep in mind, I haven't talked about Georgia or Alabama to this point, and we're through 5. I've got Spencer Rattler at 6. He played really, really poor football for about 8 weeks last year, and then something happened, and he started going nuts, and they won some games, and he was confident, and he was aggressive, and he looked the part of the number 1 quarterback in the country that he was coming out. So I've got him at 6. Throw Spencer Sanders in there at 7. He's going to be at Ole Miss, was at Oklahoma State for forever and a day. He's going to now run in Lane Kiffin's offense. I got Spencer Sanders at 7. I got Joe Milton at number 8 for Tennessee. He's going to have to come a long way from the guy he was against Pittsburgh 2 years ago when I was sitting there watching an 11 o'clock kickoff, and he kept airmailing the ball over easy touchdown catching wide receivers. But that offense is potent. They were going to have weapons even though Hyatt's gone, and I understand that they're going to have to overturn that offense a little bit. But the talent's there for Milton, and I like his system, so we'll see what he can do. And even if he wins it, because Tennessee's got a 5-star quarterback coming in, but Milton's been around the block a few times. I think he's the guy right now. I'll go with Graham Mertz at number 10 from Florida. That does not scare me in the least as a team that's got to play Florida next year. I don't think Graham Mertz is all that good, and it's going to be in Tiger Stadium. I think LSU will be just fine in that game. He doesn't scare me. And this is where I'll put Jalen Milroe. If he's their quarterback, I've got him at 11th. He didn't play a ton, I know, and they scored a lot of points against Arkansas when he was playing, and Bryce Young got hurt. But he, to me, looks like a very unpolished passer. He looks like a freakishly big, fast guy who, to me, does not look at all like Bryce Young or Tua Tagovailoa or even like Mac Jones in the pocket. He'll have a good offensive line. He'll have a good running game. He'll have some wide receivers who can make some plays. This, to me, looks like a massive step back in quarterback from Alabama. So I messed up here. I thought that it was an SEC list. It was not an SEC list. Shay just deked me on the message board post on Bengal Tiger. He said that Jaden Daniels was the number 1 quarterback in the SEC because they had him in the top 10, and no other quarterbacks in the SEC were in the top 10 in the country. But just a seed to plant in your brain for those of you that are football heads, or even those of you that are locked in on baseball and don't really care about football right this second, like me, just a little seed in your brain. I'm not fully convinced that Bama's got their quarterback situation figured out. Now, they'll get the benefit of the doubt, as they probably should. I'll admit that. But I think going as far as to just assume that whoever it is that's next, whether it's the 5-star freshman from last year, whether it's Milroe, who was the backup last year, whoever, the quarterback, just to assume, well, he's going to put the crimson jersey on. He'll have the number right there on the helmet. He'll throw for 3,700 and 38 touchdowns and 3, 4, 5 picks, and they'll be awesome. I'm not quite there. These other quarterbacks they brought in, we knew. I'll need to see it this time around. The odds are it's very good. But also the odds are, in my opinion, it's not as good as it's been the last 5 years. Fair to say? I think that's think that's fair to say. And then the other interesting dynamic of this, to bring it back to LSU, it's so odd and I think pretty rare that the masses outside of usually the bubble inside Baton Rouge, this little bubble overinflates what LSU could be. It's the optimism thing that I talk about all the time with all the sports, but football maybe even to a greater degree because there's more passion involved in football. But you overstate what you could be. In this case, the bubble doesn't love, in a lot of instances, the quarterback that LSU has, but everybody else does. All the national people, all the SEC people, On3, whoever, thinks that LSU's got a great quarterback coming back. And a lot of people who follow the program and listen to this show and post in the Bayou Ford chat and hit me up on Twitter or on the On3 message board or wherever in a cocktail party. I had Jaden Daniels. I don't know. That never happens. It's always the inverse of that. And that's going to be the narrative that we talk up so much in March with spring football and in July at media days and in August when they report to camp. It'll be a bunch of people from a national perspective going, I think LSU might have a chance to win the West again. I think that's a national championship contender. Look at the quarterback they got coming back. Look at this highlight reel. Look at these numbers. And then you'll go to the LSU fans and they'll be like, he holds on to the ball too long. I don't know. That's not how it's going to win. Right? I mean, how many of you are agreeing with that part of what I just said just listening to the show? I think a large amount. I'm between. I'm a long way from All-American Heisman Trophy candidate, and I'm a long way from get this guy out of here, just put Nussmeier in now. I'm not on either one of those teams. I'm in the middle of those where I think LSU's got a good quarterback with a skill set that is great in college football that at times is a little careful. Surprise, surprise. Hunt's taking the measure to take. It's more or less the way I'm wired. But this just lends credence to it. I look at On3 and they say that Jaden Daniels is the best returning quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. And most people go nuts. And then you go in the Bayou Ford chat and you see Rob Boudreaux says Hunt's an A&M fan. I will wholeheartedly admit that they live in my brain, but I despise them, truly, and I'm not a fan. They just take up too much of my mental capacity, which is not fairly limited as it is what it is. So I got a lot to talk about. We will get to SEC basketball coming up in 30 minutes, but excited to chat with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball coming up here after this timeout. Joe is part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. He's going to join us each and every Thursday to look back at what the weekend was and then look at the weekend to come. He'll be in Oxford and Starkville over the weekend checking out the last two national champions. It'll be his first trip to Mississippi to watch some baseball, so excited to get his thoughts on that. He just landed coming off a plane, so ought to be able to deplane and get to us here in time. So excited to chat with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball coming up next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford, the inventory is always there at BayouFord.com. I invite you to just go to BayouFord.com. Just look around. They've got all the inventory right there. When you look at it, it gives you all the deals that are possible. Gives you a video of the car with all the bells and whistles, full detailed list of all the features of each vehicle. And the inventory, as it changes, cars move out, cars come in, they update it. So whatever they've got on their lot, you can find it at BayouFord.com. You may be looking for an F-150, maybe looking for an Explorer, an Expedition. Maybe it's a Bronco. Maybe you're looking for a Mustang. Bayou Ford can help you out with that. If they don't have exactly what you want on the lot or on the website at BayouFord.com, they can customize a vehicle for you and have it turned around in 60 to 90 days. And when that vehicle comes in, it's the Bayou to You guarantee. They will drive you that vehicle with one of their 6 full-time drivers. They'll bring the paperwork right to your front door. Sign it up. They'll give you the keys. You are on your way. BayouFord.com is the website. Again, BayouFord.com is the website. Bayou Ford, where they're going to do right by you.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting with a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Charles Hanniger, join us for the Friday edition of Hanny Time. We started with Jimmy Ott's Game Time at 10 a.m. from Rufino's and take it till 1 o'clock. Big weekend in college basketball, plus LSU heads to Round Rock. Hanny Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
College baseball in full swing. Opening weekend has come and gone. Weekend number 2 fast approaching. LSU headed to Round Rock, a little tournament over there. They'll take on Kansas State, Iowa, and Sam Houston over the weekend. Joe Healy covers college baseball for D1 Baseball, part of their SEC Extra team. Joins us every week. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Joe, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing well, Hunt. Good to be going into the second weekend now. It's opening weekend is great. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have college baseball back, but this second weekend is a lot more loaded, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited for you to check out Oxford and Starkville. I've said this on my show multiple times, but Starkville for a football weekend does not work for me. It's too many people in too small a town, nowhere to park, nowhere to eat. The stadium's old and doesn't do much for me. I don't love it for football. For baseball, it is perfect. You'll love that in Oxford. I just love anyway, baseball or football. It's just a great weekend. So you're in for a treat this weekend. Before we get to what's coming ahead this weekend, let's go back briefly. Your thoughts on Tennessee going out west and dropping a couple of games?
Yeah, not too worried about it, although, of course, if you're Tennessee, you would have loved to have picked up those wins. And I think there was a little bit of hand-wringing about the offensive performance, and I get that. And, having the Maui Ahuna news just kind of dropped in our laps collectively, the day before opening day, whenever it was, it's just kind of a weird way to start your season. So a lot of things kind of contributed to it being a weird weekend for Tennessee. And look, it's lost to two good teams. Arizona's good. TJ Nichols might be the first Pac-12 pitcher drafted this summer. So I don't think there's a whole lot of shame in that. And then the Grand Canyon loss, I'm not taking anything away from Grand Canyon because they're a perennial regional team at this point, but the way they use their pitching really kind of conspired to make it tough on Tennessee. They used their number 2 guy to start against Tennessee, a tough lefty. And then because their Friday guy, or eventual Friday guy, who's a draft prospect for 2024 in his own right, was coming back from a minor injury, they used him in relief against Tennessee. So they ended up seeing Grand Canyon's 2 best arms. Now, if you're Tennessee, you still want to be able to beat Grand Canyon's best arms. I get it. However, if you want to squint, you can kind of understand how it is that Tennessee took a couple losses. And, I think they'll get back home and kind of get right. And history is littered with college baseball examples of teams that go out and fall flat opening weekend and end up getting to Omaha. I think about Texas 2 years ago. It looked awful in that Globe Life tournament to start 2021. And lo and behold, there they were in Omaha.
Ole Miss was terrible for 2.5 months last year and won the national
right,
championship.
100%.
So there you go. Look, the Baliahuna thing has been interesting to me because I read that his parents flew in to watch, and I would imagine if they knew he wasn't going to be eligible to play, they may have skipped that trip. I mean, what was Tennessee prepared for this?
Well, it sure doesn't seem like it, although, and look, this is me not understanding. I'm not in the room, so I don't know what they know. We don't know what they know, so it's hard to say. We're just speculating, right? But you're right. I mean, it kind of seemed like they were gearing up for him to play, and then at the 11th hour, it sure seemed like it was like, oh, nope, he's actually not going to play. Now, maybe they thought they knew he was ineligible to start, and maybe they thought we'll get it sorted before opening day, and that just didn't end up happening. Maybe that was the case. I don't know, but me and Mark Etheridge on our podcast recapping last weekend just kind of wondered aloud, maybe there's another example around the country that I just don't know about, but of the prominent transfers, why is his different? I guess there was a recruiting violation, a level 3. Okay, those are minor. Those don't typically result in suspension. So why is his case a little bit different? And we don't know those answers, but it just seems awfully strange that there's just one of these given all the high-profile transfers we had.
I thought outside of maybe Tennessee losing a couple games, which caught everybody's eye, I think, around here, Missouri had a nice weekend on opening weekend. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they fight. Like, that's the thing I can always say. They're always under-talented. Like, I'm not telling stories out of school there. Like, that just is what it is. A couple of years ago, they went to that tournament at Minute Maid, and they beat Oklahoma. They beat Texas to go 2-1. They do tend to play hard. It's just a matter if the talent's going to stack up. And I think this weekend they got really good offensive performances. I mean, they hit around, even the loss, they hit around Jawan Roth-Brown, who's really good draft prospect, Oklahoma State's Friday guy, and they lost that game. But then the next 2 days they came back and got a couple of wins. And so, I don't know. It's one thing to do that over one weekend, and it's quite another to do it in week after week after week in SEC play. But I've always said this about Missouri. I think that coaching staff largely, and Steve Beazer, they know what they're doing. Like, they've had good players. The trouble is just in the SEC getting enough of them to be able to compete week in and week out, and that's been more of the challenge for them. So in any given week, they can get you. The trouble is just being that consistent.
Anything from Baton Rouge that caught your eye on LSU's 3-0 weekend against an overmatched team in Western Michigan?
Not really, and I don't mean that to just be glib.
I get you.
Obviously the Tommy White thing is a big deal, but even beyond, I mean, I guess the only thing I came away with was just kind of like, it felt like the offense kind of left some stuff on the table, right? I mean, I remember looking at like the score, particularly in the Saturday game, which was 5-3 or something along those lines. Yeah. So, I mean, there was just kind of a feeling the offense didn't quite, reach its potential, but that's really nitpicking. Otherwise, I thought it was full steam ahead. I mean, if anything, it shows you with Tommy White out, just what we've been talking about all offseason about the offensive depth for LSU and how they can lose a piece like that. And, and hopefully they'll have it back, but, they could lose a piece like that for a period of time. And they really don't miss a beat because they just have that kind of depth ultimately.
Let's talk about this coming weekend and the two series that you'll lay eyes on over in the state of Mississippi. Maryland is visiting Ole Miss, Arizona State playing Mississippi State. Maryland is a Big Ten school, but I feel like they've still kind of got an ACC baseball program. They've still been good, even though they've moved to a lesser conference. What do you make of that matchup with Ole Miss welcoming Maryland? We'll get to the Hunter Elliott situation, I guess, after that.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland's good. We have them ranked in the top 15 for a reason. They still feel like an ACC program, and they have SEC talent in a lot of places. Shortstop Matt Shaw, lit up the Cape Cod League over the summer. I saw him in the fall, and he was incredible. Just great feel to hit. He's not like a super electric athlete necessarily, but just has excellent field to hit. He's real strong, so he hits for more power than you think. He's listed at 6 foot. He's probably 5'10", 5'11", weighs about 200. Just super strong, plays his position well. Again, he's not super flashy, but he's just a really, really good ball player. And their pitching is really stout, Maryland. Nick Dean is their Friday guy. He's been around forever. He's got a really varied repertoire, like 4 or 5 pitches he throws at you. Jason Savacool is their Saturday guy. He's a heavy sinker, mid-90s sinker kind of guy. And that's an interesting. Those first 2 days, I think, are on Sunday. I think that it really tilts to Ole Miss because Maryland has. Their question on the mound is pitching depth. It was an issue for them last year. Their 3 weekend guys threw something like 50+% of the team's total innings. So they were really reliant on those guys. I think it's a similar deal this year, at least on paper, especially their first 2 guys. So I think they'll be in both those first 2 games. Sunday, like I said, I think it really tilts to Ole Miss. But Savacool in particular, I think, is a good matchup for Ole Miss because he really works hitters over with that sinker. And I guess the weather's going to be a little bit dreary, so maybe the ball doesn't really fly. But obviously, we know that's an Ole Miss offense that can put up runs in bunches, especially in their own ballpark. And if Savacool is able to really work that sinker, I think there's an opportunity for him to just have a lot of guys pounding balls into the dirt, which is what you're looking for against the Rebels offense.
Hunter Elliott is absolutely a frontline SEC pitcher. He was sensational for them as a freshman last year when he entered the rotation. He feels some discomfort over the weekend, and they're going to get some MRI results here, I would imagine, pretty quickly. If, in fact, things are not good with Hunter Elliott and they have to go on without him, what does that mean for Ole Miss?
Well, it's kind of it hits him. It's like a 1-2 punch of negative things. Obviously, you lose him from the front of the rotation, and so it puts, obviously, losing him on its own is a big deal, but it also puts more of a spotlight on Grayson Saunier, the freshman, and Xavier Rivas, the D2 transfer, who were good last weekend, albeit against Delaware. That puts a little more of a spotlight there. The other thing is they're going to have to pull Jack Dougherty out of the bullpen, move him into the rotation, and I think that hit is twofold. One is that I think we kind of know what Jack Dougherty is as a starter. He's very, very good one time through the order. He can get through a second time in the order, maybe a little less cleanly, but if you're asking for any more than that from him, you're kind of playing with fire a little bit. So he was really well suited for a bullpen role. He was electric out of the bullpen last weekend against Delaware. So you lose your best bullpen arm, and you also lose, that spot in the rotation being manned by someone who can give you 6-7 innings and go through a lineup 3 times. So it really ends up kind of hurting them on both sides. And when you combine it with the fact they lost Josh Mallett before the season to Tommy John, it makes it even tougher for an Ole Miss pitching staff that now feels pretty thin.
Arizona State headed to Starkville to play Mississippi State. 2 out of the 5 games, Mississippi State's yielded double-digit runs. Any concern about the state staff to this point?
A little bit, yeah. I think you kind of have to be, just given the runs they've given up. I think it's easy to look at what you've seen so far from the state pitching staff and wonder if it's a slightly elevated version of what they had last year, where the top-end guys they have, whether it's Cade Smith and maybe Landon Gartman becomes that guy, and 1 or 2 guys in the bullpen perhaps they feel pretty good about, but everybody beyond that is a little bit of a roll of the dice. Now, it's too early to make that declaration, but I do wonder if that's maybe where they're headed based on what we've seen so far. The thing that I'm as worried so far about the defense as I am the pitching, though. It's 12 errors so far. It's a .937 fielding percentage. Now, they won't be that bad all season. Like, that would probably be historically bad for an SEC defense. But, that's not necessarily what you're looking for defensively. So I'm as worried about that as I am the pitching side of things, because I do think there were some positives. Even though they lost a midweek game to ULM and kind of got boat raced, I think there were some positives. They put Casey Hunt back on the mound, who looked lost in his start against VMI last weekend. And it was 1 inning outing in the midweek. I get it, but he looked a lot better. And so perhaps that gets him a little back on the horse, metaphorically speaking. So maybe they can get some things turned around. But the thing is, like, this Arizona State team's pretty good. They're talented, at least. Let me take that back. I don't know if they're pretty good, but I can tell you they're talented. I don't know what it'll amount to. They worked the transfer portal over like no one except LSU, probably, in terms of turning their roster over. And so they've got a pretty talented lineup, and I think they can match at least the first couple of arms, with SEC competition, including Mississippi State. We'll see what it amounts to, but State's not going to be able to just kind of roll the balls out and expect to win games playing like they did over the weekend against VMI.
I've got 2 food recommendations for you. It'd be Ajax in Oxford, and then in Starkville,
Right.
I'd just head out behind the outfield wall and eat over there.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be headed.
That's kind of my general plan. Is I'm just going to kind of walk around out there and just like walk around and hope people throw food at me, which is what I've heard is pretty much what's going to happen. So
That's
I'm
generally
looking forward to
speaking
it.
a safe assumption. Joe, enjoy Mississippi this weekend. Safe travels home. We'll talk next week.
I appreciate it, Hunt. See you, buddy.
He is Joe Healy from D1 Baseball, part of their SEC Extra. He and Mark Others just do an awesome job covering the sport. And I think this is not a segment I would have done last year. A preview of Maryland, Ole Miss, Arizona, Mississippi State, and this early in the season. We would have been heavy on basketball. We'd have been talking some spring football, probably Saints free agency, whatnot. But it sounds like this is something that y'all want to deal with, and I'm certainly happy to do it. So we're thrilled to have Joe every weekend kind of talking about some of the other series. When LSU plays a bigger one, we'll certainly preview that with Joe. But I want to get some thoughts on some other teams in the SEC. And also, because I'm going to be the one talking to you 10 hours a week, want to continue to have more expert opinions mold mine and give me some information that I may not have known. I did know that Mississippi State was kicking it around a little bit. I did not know they had made 13 errors already. You realize that LSU hasn't made one yet. That's awful. And that's the reason why they're giving up as many runs as they have. I'm concerned about Mississippi State right now under Chris Lewis. I know they just won a national championship 2 years ago, and I think everybody in Starkville probably would have been fine with that if Ole Miss didn't win it right on top of them. So they got to get it in gear. I just don't know that this team looks to me to be as talented as some of those great Mississippi State teams. It just doesn't quite. And Ole Miss without Hunter Elliott, they're going to have to swing the heck out of the bats because, as I heard one of the Ole Miss guys that covers them, Chase Parham, say, and it's the same thing that Joe said there, the loss of Hunter Elliott pulls one of your best bullpen guys into the rotation, so now you've lost your best starter and your best bullpen guy. He's helping you in the starting rotation, but he's not there at the back end where you want him. So you kind of plug in one hole by opening up another one on a ship that is taking on a little bit of water. So Ole Miss has got a lot of good players, and they're going to win a lot of games, but it's just you're not as good as you could be when you start moving some of those things around. So interesting weekend in the Southeastern Conference. UCLA is at Vanderbilt. USC is at Auburn. To get this, and we'll take a time out here after this, but this is a crazy little stat. Auburn was headed to Southern Cal to play this weekend, 3-game set. On Monday, the two teams said, you know what? USC is going to go to Auburn now. The weather's not good enough in L.A. It's got to be the first time that's ever happened, that a sporting event got moved out of Los Angeles due to weather. But that's the case. They weren't comfortable with the forecast in Southern California this coming weekend, didn't want Auburn flying across the country. So USC decided, we'll get on a plane, we'll come to Plainsman Park and get it done. So that's what they're going to do starting on Friday with a 7 o'clock first pitch. Appreciate Joe Healy for jumping on. Again, part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra coverage with Mark Etheridge. You can check it out at d1baseball.com. We'll come back, get you some updates from SEC basketball last night. Of course, take it or leave it to come. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart Association's challenge to learn CPR. Be the beat for someone you love. You can make a difference when it matters most. Go to heart.org today to take the CPR challenge and save lives.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset, What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Saturday, February 25th, 7 p.m. The Bulls Bands and Barrels Tour at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet. Edge of your seat excitement with bull riding, barrel racing, ultimate bullfighting. With a live performance by Bailey Zimmerman. With Timothy Wayne, plus two-time PBR world champion Chris Shivers, and Brinson James, the entertainer. Tickets and information at bullsbandsandbarrels.com. Saturday, February 25th, Lamar Dixon Expo Center at 7 p.m. Presented by Jerry Lane Chevrolet, the #1 Chevrolet dealer in Louisiana.
Moon Griffon is back. The voice of Louisiana politics makes his return to Baton Rouge. Catch the Moon Griffon Show weekdays from 9 to 11 a.m. on Talk 107.3.
Toyota in Opelousas is here to help you ring in the new year with no markups, and you'll never pay over MSRP. And we have new inventory arriving daily. So Happy New Year from our Corvette Toyota family to yours.
Musso, join us for Thursday's AFR presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. The Pelicans return from the All-Star break. We're previewing their trip to Toronto, recapping LSU Vandy and Hoops. Thursday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Vibes have been so good on my SEC gambling picks for the last couple of weeks. Losing night last night. You hate to see it. You really hate to see it. If it took my unprecedented run of gambling success, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4 games over 500 over 3 weeks. If it takes that kind of run being halted for LSU to get a victory over Vanderbilt, I'm willing to fall on the sword. I can do that. I don't have that much pride. I'll take a gambling L here that didn't cost me any dollars for LSU to win. Just a little bit of a hit of pride. That's it. But last night I told you that I thought Alabama would cover the 17 points against South Carolina. They had to go to overtime. You could say, oh, look, I got all the stuff going on outside the program. Maybe it was just too much for him. Well, Brandon Miller scored 41. So I don't know that he was totally adversely affected by the reports from the last couple of days. Bama just about a disaster losing to South Carolina, but instead they do get it done. Bama just didn't shoot threes at the level they usually do. In an overtime game, outside of Miller, they only took 14 threes. They took over 30 in the first half against LSU in Tuscaloosa. For some reason, they just weren't letting them fly. And South Carolina tried to kind of muddy it up and keep the score down, and they did. They held Bama to 68 points in the game, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Bama didn't shoot that many threes. That's just what I think of Bama doing, but they didn't. So that's a loss for me. Inconsequential, really, in the grand scheme of things. Bama remains 14-1 in SEC play, and South Carolina is still atrocious at 3-12. But surprising outcome. I told you I liked Kentucky to go down and cover the number at Florida. That was a winner. Kentucky did win that game by 8 points. However, Florida put up a fight. They were winning at halftime. They were winning in the second half. And Kentucky just imposed their will on the Gators. Sheway went for 25 points, and they didn't really have an answer for him with Castleton out. It was a gutty effort from Florida. It was. And they just don't have enough horses, I don't think, at this point to hang with Kentucky. Kugel had 24 points and was good for him. But it just ran out of gas. I think their initial spurt in front of the home crowd against a big-name opponent, trying to fight for their potential tournament lives, I think we can probably put that to bed. They came out swinging, but they didn't have enough, and Kentucky did shoot 53% from the floor in the game. Sheway was 12 of 13, which was impressive, and Kentucky did win and cover. So at that point, I'm 1-1, but was unable to get home in the gambling ledger because of the result on the Plains between the Auburn Tigers and the Ole Miss Rebels. I thought Auburn would cover the 13 because, well, Ole Miss is dreadful. They barely won. 78-74 was the final. Janai Broom, 19 points and 8 rebounds. LSU gets Ole Miss coming up this weekend. Matt Morrell is really the best offensive weapon that Ole Miss has, and he was really good in the game last night. Burrell goes for 23 points in the game, 6 of 15 shooting, 9 of 12 from the free throw line, and the Rebs hung in a game that Auburn really, quite frankly, won at the free throw line. Ole Miss missed 12 free throws in the game. They went 20 of 32, which is just 63%, and Auburn was 22 of 24, 92%. If Auburn doesn't have that kind of effort at the free throw line, or Ole Miss is better. I mean, a game that Ole Miss on the road lost by 4 points, they missed 12 free throws. That's just, quite frankly, kind of giving it away. Rebs kind of hung with Auburn everywhere else. They out-rebounded them, 38-28. Turnovers were dead heat at 12 apiece. I mean, Ole Miss is not as talented as Auburn really in any way, and Auburn was at home. But Auburn did just enough to win, and they're on good footing right now for the NCAA tournament, but they just aren't on good footing in terms of the kind of team that they want to be. They lost to Vanderbilt, lost Bama, lost A&M, lost to Tennessee, lost at West Virginia, lost A&M. Whenever they step up in class, they're getting beat, and at this point they stepped down in class to Ole Miss and still only come out with a 4-point win. So now Auburn's got it on their racket moving forward. How good a seed do you want in the NCAA tournament? You're at Kentucky, at Bama, home Tennessee. That, to me, to my eye, looks like 0-3. Now, Tennessee's not exactly hitting on all cylinders at this point. So could I see a situation where Tennessee goes to Auburn? I don't think it'll be bad as it was when they played in Knoxville, where both teams were in the 40s. But I can see a scenario where Tennessee goes to Auburn and does score in the 50s, and that's certainly a game that Auburn can win. I don't like their chances in Rupp, and I don't like their chances, obviously, at Coleman to play in Alabama. So Auburn's got a chance to make a move here late. I don't trust Bruce Pearl's team right now, just the way that it goes. And sadly, the phenomenal gambling heater that was 2 weeks of just slightly above 500 bet picks has kind of run out of steam. But doesn't mean we won't get back on the horse next week. We'll see what happens. All right, we got one segment to go. That means we got some Take It or Leave It coming right up. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. I was talking with an LWCC rep, and it's the message they always bring to me is that they understand how much people love our state. No better time to talk about that than Mardi Gras, because people love our culture, our lifestyle, the music, the food. It's a loved state, but it should be an admired state for some of the great things that we do. And that's why LWCC wants to tell stories of champions of Louisiana like Simone Milaz. Simone has dedicated her career to protecting Louisiana's coast, and we know just how important our coast is. Houses 2.5 million people, supports infrastructure like highways, ports, pipelines that fuel not only our economy, but the country's economy as a whole. And Simone, again, has dedicated her career to protecting that coastline. She is the executive director of Restore or Retreat, and makes her a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, whether it's a nonprofit or a person or a business, and you want us to tell their story, go to lwcc.com/champions. lwcc.com/champions, and let us tell their story. We love doing it, and LWCC gives us this platform. So Simone Milaz is February's champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We get it done with strength, commitment, dedication, grit.
We get it done with passion for our fans
and love for our community. We are
the Tigers.
Get it done.
Let the values of the purple and gold be in your starting lineup this season. And as always, get it done.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or nolaflooring.com.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Women who suffer from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital are less likely than men to receive life-saving CPR from bystanders. This is especially true for Black and Latino women. Be the one in your family to help change this statistic by taking the American Heart.
Me, Jimmy Ott, and Charles Henegriff for the Thursday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're downtown at Jolly Pearl Oyster Bar on North facing Town Square. Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m., presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
On show today, appreciate Sharif Ishak and Joe Healy for jumping aboard. Covered a lot. We haven't covered everything because we got to play Take It or Leave It.
The Broncos are reportedly hiring Vance Joseph as their defensive coordinator. Heading back to the place where you were fired. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. They're probably going to pay him pretty good. He's not going to have to be the head coach. Sean Payton's there calling the shots, and look, Vance Joseph is a very well-respected coach. I think Denver's an awesome place to live. Apparently, it's a really good organization from what we know. Hester's told us here that he had thoroughly enjoyed his time there. I understand it might be a little awkward that you were the head coach there and told to carry on. But, look, there aren't that many of those jobs, and when one comes open, might as well take it, swallow that pride, and go to work. And I think Vance Joseph will do just fine with that.
Former Laker and now a member of the Chicago Bulls, Patrick Beverley said on his podcast this week that his new goal is to knock the Lakers out of the playoffs. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave it. I mean, there's got to be an element to this that is an act. There's a podcast, and he's not a good enough or impactful enough player to warrant any media attention unless he creates it himself with antics on the floor, which I believe to be one way to fire yourself up or get under the team's skin and make them play worse. And there's a spot for that, I guess. But the stuff that goes on off the court, that's just kind of an act, I think. I don't think he's that much of I don't even know what the word would be. Just who cares? You're with the Bulls. They're bad. The Lakers aren't that good. They're not going anywhere this year anyway. And you got bigger fish to fry than the 2 games you have left against the Lakers. Now, I realize those 2, theoretically, if you could beat them, could help knock them out of the playoffs. But it just seems like a bit much in an act. And that's where I kind of have to draw the line and be like, I don't really need to hear it.
Aaron Rodgers is now finished with his darkness retreat,
right,
and many believe that he will be playing in Green Bay again next season. Rodgers did all of this just to return to the Packers. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I clearly don't have any sources in Green Bay. I don't have any inside information on this. That should be breaking news to you all. It just feels like it's over in Green Bay. And I know that there have been people that have said that this is overblown and that he's going to end up going back because the contract's huge and that's going to be home. It just feels like it's over. The things that he did leaving the field for the last time, they didn't make the playoffs, that game against the Lions, the things that he did on social media, some of the things that he said in press conferences, it just feel like there's going to be a move here. I wouldn't be shocked if you went back to Green Bay, but I just think that ship has sailed.
All right, last one. Breakfast for dinner. Take it or leave it.
You must have heard me talking about this. I will take this.
I'll take it.
I love breakfast for dinner. We're having breakfast for dinner tonight. I've got biscuits going. We got bacon. We got some eggs. I'm a scrambled egg fan. I also have the ability here to make some breakfast sandwiches. I've got some good like brioche buns and some tortillas at home that we might be able to get creative with. Throw some avocado in there. I know that people like hot sauce in this instance. That's not going to be my lane, but I love breakfast dinner. It doesn't have to be 8 in the morning for me to love biscuits and eggs and bacon and avocado and all that kind of stuff. It's not something that we do every week in the Palmer house, but certainly it's something that we can lean on. I think as kids grow up, as Myers gets a little bit older, and then maybe hopefully have another one here, not 2 or 3, just one if we can. That'll probably be a little bit more prevalent because it's easy and kids like it, but I think there are a lot of foods that adults may get chastised for eating or ordering, like quesadillas or chicken fingers, that I love, or grilled cheese. And breakfast or dinner may be one of those things. I'm all in on breakfast or dinner, and we'll be having it tonight in the Palmer House. Very much looking forward to that. That is it for Take It or Leave It here on this Thursday. If you missed any of the show, you can always catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, anywhere you find your podcast, your sound, or your audio, video, in this case for YouTube. Check it out. We started the show with LSU and Vanderbilt talking about the Tigers finally getting a win on the hardwood last night. That is a very good thing. I went over some SEC baseball midweek highlights. Then Sharif Ishak talking NOLA with Alvin Kamara, Will Lutz pay cut, Pelicans, where things stand coming out of the All-Star break. That is at 1:30 today. And then we talked about the Tampa Bay Bucks leaking out through sources with Jeff Darlington saying, hey, we're hitching our wagon to Kyle Trask this year. That's going to be our quarterback. And I talked about how kind of pathetic the entire NFC South is at the end of hour number 1. Hour number 2 opened up with quarterbacks in the SEC and kind of my thoughts. You could tell that we did not prep that segment as one that where I knew the list because the list didn't exist that I thought we were going off of. So we just kind of went off the cuff there, and I gave you my thoughts on SEC quarterbacks. So if you want a football fix, it's right there at the top of hour number 2. Joe Healy was awesome talking baseball from D1 Baseball's SEC Extras page. He's going to be Mississippi, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss over the weekend. So we talked with him about Tennessee's struggles, a little bit of LSU, and what he expects from some of the teams in the Southeastern Conference this week. Then did some SEC basketball and what we saw last night in the 2:30 segment before some Take It or Leave It. So go check that out on demand. If you missed any of it, it's always up on YouTube. Taylor does a great job of cutting up those 10-minute segments, kind of post them. If you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, those will automatically populate into your feed, and that gets our information and our video in front of more people, which we certainly always appreciate. Tomorrow's show going to be presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Got a lot to get to tomorrow. LSU will play at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So before 2 o'clock, we will preview LSU's weekend that will come. We got Kansas State coming up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Iowa, and a big one for this team on Saturday because of the starting pitcher that Iowa's going to throw, who throws 100 miles an hour. Get you ready for that, as well as the Sam Houston game coming up on Sunday. We'll also get you ready for LSU and Ole Miss on the hardwood at the Pavilion in Oxford. That game is at 7:30 on Saturday, so we'll get you ready for all that, plus the SEC action, and recap Pels and Rockets from tonight on a Saturday show. Very much looking forward to that. Have a wonderful Thursday evening, all of you out there. Be safe. We'll see you on Friday. Coming up next, it'll be Matt Musso on After Further Review, and Jimmy Ott's Game Time from Jolie Pearl will be the nightcap here. You're listening to the Capital City's leader in sports talk. It is 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.